So the last time, which was your first time on the show, we went really, 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 really deep into your backstory, your origin, your superhero origin story, which I like to do, and and kind of got up to speed to where we are today. You got a couple of books out. You've got some programs that you do. You take people to places around the world and you do really interesting things with them. I thought maybe we could unpack a little bit of that today, and also just talk a little bit about everyone's favorite subject, which is relationships. Because you get on your socials and you give these you post these clips of you expounding upon the spiritual perspective on soulmates and just every topic under the sun when it comes to relationships. And you've had your own interesting journey, which I don't know if you're interested in talking about, like how you found your current partner, but I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about that too. But before we do all that, obviously there's a link to the first episode in the show notes, but give us just a little, just even people who listen to that first episode, just give us a little refresher on who you are and how you got to be this spiritual legend that you are today.
Wow. In a nutshell, I'll make it quick. Born in Ghana, West Africa, father's from Ghana, mother's Japanese, grew up in London, live in the US, from everywhere and nowhere, which was a blessing in and of itself, where I felt like I didn't really identify with any particular nationality, which also on one level created a sense of not feeling at home, but also on another level, feeling connected to everyone. And so it was a strange duality. Like I didn't feel like I fit in, but I feel like I fit in everywhere. And so my childhood was a bit unusual, although I didn't know it was unusual at the time. I just thought that everyone had my childhood, in that I grew up around a lot of miracles, blind people seeing, deaf people hearing, people standing up out of wheelchairs. And the blessing was that I didn't think it was very unusual. I thought everyone had this experience. And so the normalness of that, like brush your teeth, take a shit, have some breakfast, go to school, miracle, blind person, was able to see, and someone stood up out of a wheelchair, was just every day. It was every day. And I didn't think anything of it until I went to school and began talking about this experience to my schoolmates and my teachers, and they thought I was a bit crazy. But like a first memory I had, I forgot if we talked about this in the first episode, but I was lost in the crowd, and a crippled woman basically is crawling on the floor. She picks up the gravel that this man walks on, wipes it on her face, and stands up. And so week after week, I grew up seeing this. This man was my father, who was this healer, miracle worker, built 300 churches. So I grew up in this spiritual context and began speaking at age 8 in my father's churches. Age 14 was ordained, designated the successor to take over my father's spiritual organization. And at 18, renounced everything, left everything behind, gave everything up, which was very difficult. My father and I didn't speak for a few years, but I felt as though my soul was calling me to a different path. My soul was calling me to the US. My soul was calling me to Los Angeles. I wanted to go into the field of personal growth and spirituality, because I would sneak into my father's bookshelf. And how I got that idea was I would read all these self-help books of, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Neville Goddard, Reverend Ike, and all these people. I thought, wow, there's a whole new way of inspiring and impacting people that's not through religion and the church. And so, sometimes what your soul nudges you and guides you to do doesn't always make sense, isn't always convenient, isn't always comfortable. And I felt that nudging that was so strong, and that is what I chose to follow. And left everything behind, man. Everything I knew, everything I thought was, ended up winning a green card in the green card lottery that brought me to the US, and I began my journey here. And went and found teachers and mentors and authors, and ended up in India, and that blew my mind and heart open to another dimension of life and existence and my sense of purpose. And that's when I came back again to the US and began 20 some years ago coaching people one-on-one. No idea what I was doing, but I began coaching, and one person came, another person came. Then I kind of devised a way of working with people that I called uncoaching, and that evolved, and people started coming organically from around the world, and it just organically grew. I didn't care about business. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about, this is before social media. I didn't care about anything other than I just wanted to help people and make a difference in people's lives. And it just evolved from there. So that's the short version, bro.
You also wanted to have your own talk show. You thought that was a part of your mission. And
it wasn't wanted. I got to the point where I was obsessed about it. Did we talk about this in the last?
Yeah, share your Steven Spielberg. I think that's a good story. One story to share from the previous episode for this episode, because it's such a good story. I've actually told that story in my own lectures because it's such a great story. But
I was really like, I came to Los Angeles without any agenda. I had no idea about Hollywood. I was so innocent and green that I didn't know this Hollywood thing was here. And when I came here, I started seeing like Oprah and TV and Ricky Lake and Montel Williams, and I started watching these TV shows that I didn't watch before. And I thought I got this vision that, wow, I want to be the next Oprah and for the new generation, and have a TV show that is inspiring but mainstream at the same time. And so I began pitching everybody in Hollywood that I knew, and I didn't know anyone in Hollywood. So I started to literally track down people. I started tracking down agents at CAA, William Morris, ICM, tracking down producers outside of their offices, doorsteps, outside of yoga studios. And I got this idea one day as I read Steven Spielberg's book. So I had basically a TV show, talk show concept, a Kinko's printed press kit, a handwritten letter, and I would write all of these moguls letters. And so I read Steven Spielberg's book and I thought, this guy is a visionary, you know, he does things differently. And he just was launching DreamWorks. And I thought, I think this guy would take a chance on me, you know, and I didn't know him, obviously. So I asked somebody who knew a producer, and the guy said, hell no, I can't introduce you to the guy. It's my reputation on the line. Like, Spielberg is a god. But he said, look, I feel for you, young kid. I was 21 at the time. Like, you got something. You got something. He said, I have a friend who his kid plays soccer with Spielberg's kid. Call him up. He might point you in a direction. I call this guy up, Don. I won't say his last name. I say, hey, Don, this is Kute. I got this vision. I want to change the world, you know, impact the world, impact millions of people, talk show. I had my whole spiel down. I've been rejected so many times. I mean, sometimes people say they've been rejected. They're like, oh, Light, I've tried everything. I mean, I tried everything. I mean, I knocked on doors. I was kicked out of studios. So at this point, I'm basically homeless, you know, not by choice, but by default. I was homeless, had no money, pursuing this dream. Put everything into it. And so I tell Don, like, this is my vision. I'm homeless, but I know it's going to happen. And I say, can you introduce me to Steven? Because I know your son plays soccer with him, with his kid. And he said, I can't do that. That's impossible. You know, this is Steven Spielberg. And I just gave him my rap, and I pulled his heartstrings, and I said, I have this vision. I want to impact. I know, look, Steven was a guy who jumped over fences, you know, of studios and camped outside of studios. And, you know, I came up with Sid Sheinberg and all these people that gave him a shot. I need a shot too. And I'll promise you, I'll make you look amazing. I think he felt sorry for me. Finally, he said, well, I do play, you know, well, you know, the soccer match is in Brentwood, you know, by a post office, but you didn't hear it from me. And I said, by which post office? Well, there's only one real post office, main post office in Brentwood. And, you know, I don't know, maybe you just stroll over there. And the next Saturday I went with a suit, my press kit, ready to pitch Steven Spielberg. This is craziness. No one was there. He wasn't there. Next week I came back with my suit, a letter. The letter starts, dear Mr. Spielberg, I want you to launch a revolution. I'm going to bring you a multi-billion-dollar talk show that's going to change the world. Help me help you. Basically, was the beginning of this letter.
Help you.
I just watched Jerry Maguire, and
yeah.
help me help you. And I wrote a 4-page letter, right? And I show up, man, trembling. And I see a bunch of kids on the soccer field. I'll never forget this day. And I'm hiding behind a tree. And I see there's Steven Spielberg and Kate Capshaw watching their adopted kid play soccer. I'm like, do I go now? Do I not go now? Thank God my intuition said, just wait. So I'm hiding behind a tree for like an hour. I see this whole group of people, parents, with their kids coming. I mean, this is parents with kids. This is protective stuff. And they're all walking. I don't know what possessed me, man, but I just jumped out of the tree and I stood in front of Spielberg. When you're young and innocent and you don't know better, and there I am in front of Spielberg, and everybody went blank, froze. And I just start pitching Steven Spielberg, Mr. Spielberg, I'm like you when you were 21. I want to change the world. I'm just giving him my pitch, and he's frozen. He softened when he saw his wife smile. And she realized I was innocent kid who had a vision. And then he said, okay, calm down. Tell me what you have. And I pitched him. I gave everything to him. I'm trembling, meanwhile, full of nerves. And he says, okay, let me look at it. And I said, don't forget me. He's like, okay, kid, don't worry. That was a Saturday. On Monday, I'll never forget this. I get a phone call from his office. His assistant, this is Mr. Spielberg's assistant. Mr. Spielberg's assistant says, you're going to get a phone call from somebody. I get a phone call a few hours later from ABC, Buena Vista Television. They had done a bunch of talk shows. And this woman calls me up and she says, I don't know exactly what happened over the weekend, but I got a phone call from Steven Spielberg, which is a bit unusual. And he was raving about this young kid that he met in a park. And they don't do talk shows at DreamWorks, but he said, you have to take a look at this guy. And when I get a phone call from Spielberg, then we have to listen. And so I went in to pitch Buena Vista TV, this talk show idea. And obviously I was kind of laughed out by them, But what was interesting, just to kind of wrap that story, I was so touched by Spielberg, but months later, I tracked down these managers who managed Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, Jennifer Lopez, Leonardo DiCaprio, Backstreet Boys, Martin Lawrence, Dolly Parton. And I'm like, these guys can help me. I wrote them a letter. They called me in. I pitched them, do my spiel, fully expecting to get rejected. And these two guys look at each other and they're like, we believe you. We're going to make you a star. And they look at each other and they're nodding and they're like, we're going to make you a star. We're going to take you to Fox. We're going to do and they started going sort of outlining this entire plan. And they gave me a letter, a contract, and they said, come back tomorrow. This is after I've been rejected like 4,000 times. Come back tomorrow. I go home. You're going to like this light. I have this clever idea to meditate on it. And I go into meditation. And as I sit with it, all I feel in my body is no. Like, no, don't sign with these people. It was the same intelligence that guided me to leave my father. The same intelligence that guided me to apply for my green card. The same intelligence that had been guiding me was the same thing that said, do not sign with these people. My mind was telling me, but these guys can legitimately make you into a freaking star. No. So I listened. And that set me into a funk. That set me into a real depression, because I felt like my ego felt caged by the deeper guidance of my soul. And I want to do this, but my soul is guiding me. And I just knew when I don't listen to my soul, things don't turn out well. And I listened to it, and I was so frustrated. And that's when I threw my arms up and I said, God, I don't know what the hell you want with me and my life, but I have tried everything, everything in my human power to manifest the goal and the dream that I think is what I'm here to do, which is this TV show. I've come to the end of my ego's capacity to make it happen. I give up. And that's when I was guided to go to travel, to walk the Camino, to go to Thailand, ended up in India. And I basically said, I'm going to shave my head, put everything in storage, not come back until I find certain answers for myself. And I will not come back to the US until I know why I'm here and my purpose and like what the next steps are and the purpose of my life. I'm not coming back to America. And that's what changed my life. That's what changed the trajectory of my entire destiny. And I think back now, and I realized, bro, that sometimes not getting what you want is grace. Sometimes we have to thank God for the prayers that weren't answered, because had I got the show, the truth is I wasn't ready. You know, the truth is I wasn't ripened. The truth is I was a kid that was not developed. And so many young kids get washed up in this sort of entertainment system, and probably the same would have happened. And who knows what would have happened. And it was not going down a path that led me to work on myself and heal and go so deep into the inner domain of my own interior healing and connecting and spirituality that I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today and over the last years had I not taken that path, you know. And so just grace, man, just grace.
I love that story. What did you, when you did your travels, what came through you in terms of your purpose and what you're here to do?
Yeah, you know, I was wandering around. It really, like I walked the Camino just praying for a month.
What's the Camino for people who aren't familiar?
The Camino is a 900-kilometer trek in northern Spain. Mm-hmm. It starts on the south of the Pyrenees. I mean, part of it starts before, but I started at the official point, which is the south of the Pyrenees. And you walk straight up a mountain, which is like hell, into a forest, down into Spain. And then you walk across northern Spain. And you stay in, I mean, if you really do it right, you stay in monasteries or churches on the floor. It's the way of the pilgrims, you know. Dante, Chaucer, St. Francis of Assisi, you know, Shirley MacLaine popularized it. It's a 900-kilometer trek that is on a ley line, energetic vortex line, places like Sedona and Machu Picchu. But when a human being comes in contact with these ley lines, it has a energetic effect in your nervous system of purification and activation. And so the whole walk is on this ley line. So it has a vibrational, spiritual healing effect to bring stuff up, to bring up, you know, unresolved issues and cleansing and purging. And it's a powerful walk that makes you kind of face yourself and find yourself. And walking 13, 14, 15 hours a day on this energy line vortex definitely stirs some things. And so I did that, and that's how I ended up in India, because someone there said, go to India. And when I got to India, I hated it. When I got to India, I was like, screw this shit. There's nothing spiritual about this place. There's shit everywhere, cows everywhere, flies everywhere, dirt everywhere. Like, I'm out. You know, I had this idea of India being, you know, incense flowing and, you know, nice music. It was cars, traffic, chaos. And somehow India, in her innate intelligence, knew how to find those places inside of me that were holding on. And my ego was holding on to a sense of I-ness and meanness and control. And India shred me, man. And I remember walking and praying and screaming at God and cursing God out, and just I must have searched out 300 enlightened gurus in the first few months, just trying to find answers, you know. And one day I got to the point where I said, I was on the banks of the Ganges. I'd run in Rishikesh every morning. I'd run Lakshman Jula, jump into the Ganges as an after run, post-run dip. And I would sit in a cave with a monk, Hindu monk, and we would talk about life, and I'd ask questions. And one day I said, God, I don't know what you want from me, because the life I thought I was here to live, this TV idea that I was so sure about, is not happening. And so I basically give up. And I said, I don't know what you want, but I completely give up any idea of what I think I'm here to do. And if my purpose is, if what I'm here to do is to clean the streets and be a janitor, if I'm here to do whatever that is, like, just show me. Like, I have no idea anymore. And I don't know, man. It was like, I don't know, ambition in a certain way dropped away. A certain ambition dissolved, and I just let go, you know. And slowly, through certain experiences that occurred over those months, I started to get a sense. It wasn't like this crystal clear, this is what you're here to do. But as I went through certain inner experiences and realizations, there was just a profound sense of the undeniable oneness of existence and the undeniable oneness of what we are. And from that sense of realization of the oneness of what we are, there was a sense of love that I hadn't experienced before for humanity. And that was interesting because I'm, wow, I feel like I love people in a whole different way. And I began to feel very free. I had I had very little money, no girlfriend, no nothing, and I felt free. And so there was a natural impulse, that wasn't crystallized with my mental logic, a natural impulse and desire to be of service in some way, a natural overflow of it was beyond me, and I didn't know what form that would take. Like, I came back to the US completely broke, and I felt happy and I felt at peace. And what happened was friends would kind of show up and say, why are you so unhappy? Why are you so at peace? What's the deal? And we would just chat and we would just talk. And so I didn't know the specific unfolding of my purpose, but there was a sense that it was here to be of service in some way. And I didn't know it was coaching. I didn't know it was helping people evolve, but there was a deep impulse to, my life wasn't my life. And my life was really here to be in service to helping people remember, what I had begun to remember about the truth of who I am, and and it just started slowly happening.
You've never really had, quotes, a real job. You never worked in an office. You never worked at a restaurant, anything like that. You just kind of have always navigated these spiritual spaces. And
when I came to the US, I washed some dishes. When I came to the US in the beginning, I remember doing car sales on the weekends.
Oh, really? You worked at a car lot?
In a car lot, it's called a tent sale. And you go out to a big park and they sell cars that is out of a tent. And it was hard, man. Let's just say that. For me, it was hard because there was a deep sense. This is before I went to India. There was a deep sense that, this is not what I'm here to do.
You're supposed to be on TV. You're not supposed to be here selling cars.
Supposed to be on TV or doing something else. But yeah. I mean, I work odd jobs here and there, just hustling, trying to make money, doing a bit of this, helping friends out, running errands, just doing things. But I had actually never worked in an office for an accountant, doing a specific thing. Maybe sold something for a month, did something for a month here, but not as a career. Yeah.
So your trip to the US was a leap of faith. And then you said you were homeless, and then you know, you going to India and walking or walking the trail first. And then all of those were like different leaps of faith.
Yeah.
How did you develop the inner confidence to listen to those nudgings and to take action in the direction of, well, I guess you didn't know how it was going to turn out, but
I had no idea. You know, I followed, if anything, I would love to be able to say it was some great thing, but I think more than anything, it was just simply following the clues. It was just following the clues. And what I've done my whole life, to maybe greater degrees now, is endeavored to follow the clues and allowed life to lead me. Mm-hmm. And so, as an example, when I had the conversation with my father and I told him, I'm not taking over your churches, I was terrified. And he said, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, now what the hell do I do? Because I don't know anyone in America. I have no university degree. I have no money. I have no support. What the hell? I feel this calling and no way to follow through. So I remember sitting down in the library of my school, and I said a prayer. And I said, God, you've given me a vision. I sensed something. It's undeniable. You give me a vision, but I have no idea how I'm going to fulfill it. I've no, like, I remember saying, I feel like I have literally leaped into an abyss and I'm hanging. And I remember saying, please, God, don't leave me hanging here. Because if any of this shit works, all this spiritual stuff, if it works, like, I need to know now. And days later, I'm in the same library, someone walks up, gives me a magazine. Seemingly nothing. But for me, as I said, it's following the clues. Sometimes the clues come to you very loud. Sometimes the clues are gentle whisperings. And I felt something. I just felt like, I got curious. It's like, well, what is this? I've never read this magazine before. This is a bit strange. And it was a sense. And I just started flipping through the back of the magazine, and American government's giving me 55,000 green cards. And so for me, it was just feeling, this feels, something's here. And I just followed the clue and I applied. And so it wasn't like this huge leap. It was just, let me follow the next step, and let me follow that clue, and let me follow that clue, and let me follow that clue, and let me follow that clue. And before you knew it, I had won, you know. That's what happened. These days, the intuition is more refined, primarily because over time, through experiences of sometimes not following, and then getting my ass kicked by life, realizing I knew it. That wasn't worth it. And so it becomes less worth it to not follow than follow. And that's why I kind of say these days, the deeper I go in my spiritual path, the less choice I feel that I have. Mm-hmm. The freer I feel. Mm-hmm. The more in ego I was before, the more choice I thought I had, but it was really an illusion. The more limited I am, because as we evolve, as we evolve, I think there comes a moment where certain things that we used to do, I mean, yeah, we can do them, but the energetic, spiritual, karmic, vibrational consequence of it is no longer worth it. We can go out with that person, we can drink that thing, we can eat that thing, we can do that thing, but the impact on our energy and our psyche and our soul and our spirit ceases to be worth it, you know? And I think that whenever we're evolving, that next level of life requires the next level of us. and certain ways of being, we can't take certain ways of being to that next level. Certain things are going to have to be given up. Certain things are going to have to be released. And so more and more, what I began doing was I would sense and feel this guidance. And at first, there's a natural tendency to question it. The mind gets engaged in questions and starts hijacking the situation through over-analysis. And this mechanism of over-analysis is sort of the ego strategy of trying to understand everything, because if I can understand everything, then I can control everything, and maybe I won't get hurt again. And before you know it, we, through our sense of trying to understand everything, we've talked ourselves out of following this guidance. And so more and more, what I learned to do, trained to do, learn to do, is when I would feel this go here, do this, move in this direction, I stopped questioning. It was literally, I just stopped questioning. Doesn't make sense. And many times that intuitive guidance that we take the leap to, it's not meant to make sense to your mind, because often it's arising from a deeper dimension than your conditioned mind and logic. And that's why it's bigger than your mind's capacity to understand in a given moment. And so when I stop questioning, it's like, I don't need to know what this means. And I don't need to know where this is going. Giving up that need to know is something that set me free. And I think in that is an innocence. You know, you must, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be like a child. There's the innocence. And so these days people say, well, why did you take that leap? Why did you turn left? I don't know. Why did you? I don't know. Why did you? I don't know. Just this energy, this intuitive thing is saying, go there. And I think we often find out afterwards. So more and more, it's been a cultivation of just following. And then, oh, now I understand 10 years later, 3 years later, 2 years later, a year later, why I needed to take that leap. But it didn't make sense at the time, you know?
Did you see the movie The Game with Michael Douglas?
I did, a long time ago.
Yeah, directed by David Fincher. It was one of my favorite movies, even to this day. And for those of you who haven't seen it, the plot is he signs up for this game. His brother actually signs him up for this game, but then it looks like he didn't really get signed up for it. And his life starts to become this great adventure where he's getting chased, he's getting shot at, he's in the back of a cab, and the cab dives off into the water, and he's got to survive that. And then he wakes up in Mexico in a coffin, and it's just like all this crazy stuff. And he's convinced that these people are trying to kill him. It started off as a game, but now it's something more serious. And it culminates with him basically at the end of the movie feeling like his only choice was to commit suicide. So he jumps off this building, and then he lands into his own birthday party. And he realizes that that was the actual game. And in hearing your story, and zooming out a little bit, I'm just curious how you think about this idea of destiny. Like, are these things are already sort of predetermined for us? Can we miss out on hitting one of those way stations along our path? What does it feel like when we're engaged? What does it feel like when we're disengaged? For the people listening, I have my own ideas, but I'm curious.
Man, that's a difficult, challenging question. What I will say, just to start seeing how I can answer it from different angles, is I think, we live in a world, I think, of infinitely valid but simultaneously contradictory realities inherent in the nature of life. So if we say, well, is it this or is it that? Is it that or is it this? I would say it's not this or that, it's the and. And it's the sort of multi-layered gradient of the and that's in between. Is it destiny? Is it free will? It's both. And that paradox, it's I think that ability to live in that paradox that is the real freedom. The real freedom. You know, on some level, I would say, yeah, you can never miss your true soul's destiny. You cannot fuck up God's plan for your life. You're just not that powerful. There's an intelligence that we are, that you are, that we are all being lived. Life itself is a one man, one being, one woman show. Consciousness is manifesting as the multiplicity of form, as all existence. And you could say life itself is the play of consciousness. Life itself is the play of this intelligence, infinite intelligence that is the divine, playing itself as you, me, and all characters. And so can it miss its own destiny from that deeper sense when it's just seeking to experience different flavors and shades and, you know, aspects of itself? How could it miss its own destiny when it is the only thing that is here? And I think when we die or when we wake up, we come to that deeper realization of like, when I take my mask off and you take your mask off and your ex takes her mask off and my ex takes, everybody takes a mask off, we realize it's a one freaking person show. And it was all, you know, it was all freaking perfect. It's like, wow, thank you for breaking my heart. Thank you for not committing to me and forcing me to leave. And even though I thought I was bad for cheating on you, but on a deeper dimension of this game and play that is life, everything needed to be exactly what it was in order to help us evolve and life to experience what it needed to experience. And to me, that's that sort of bigger level, bigger lens, you know? And so on one level, everything is perfect. Everything is exactly as it is. You can't miss it. And I think when you trust that life is doing itself, it frees you up in a certain sense to just be and to just live. Now, that's also not simultaneously an excuse to go, well, everything's perfect, so I'm just going to jump off a cliff. Everything's perfect, so I'm not going to go exercise. Everything's perfect, so I'm going to just beat up my child. You know, that's simultaneously, you know, like not an excuse. At the same, everything's perfect, so I'm not going to put in the effort that I need to put to launch my book and be amazing and build my career. It's just, it all is what it is. You can't miss your destiny. So I'm just going to sit here. No, it might require the cooperation and the participation in the process of this realm of duality. And so everything is exactly as it's meant to be. And that's I think that's the freedom is in the and, not the either or. We talk about free will. To the degree, so that's the sort of spiritual context. Inside of that, to the degree, I would say, people talk about free will. Oh, free will, free will, free will. If you look, I include myself in this. If we look at some of the relationships that we have had with romantic partners a decade ago, 5 years ago, and I would say, you chose that? So yeah, what the hell was I thinking? Like, if we were free, truly free, why would we choose some of the partners and the situations? Because in many ways, the degree to which I would say we are conditioned, beliefs, programs, childhood wounds, you know, sort of unconscious patterns, the degree to which we're conditioned is the degree to which we're not free, truly free to respond to the moment. Because often, from our conditioning, we're in the moment, but in the past, in the moment, reacting to the moment from the past, and from that past conditioning, recreating the same experiences over and over and over and over again. We're not free. So the degree to which we're conditioned is the degree to which we're really not free to choose our response and action in the moment. So on one level, I think to truly experience the dimension of freedom, we have to do the mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, therapeutic work to be able to free up the layers of and patterns of our conditioning so that we can tap into a deeper dimension of our intelligence and awareness so that we're able to see more clearly, not just through the lens of our ego programming, see more clearly so that there is access to a wider range in the possibility of choice. And I think the more we're able to do that, rather than just choosing that person that is exactly like your mom, choosing that person that is exactly like your dad and not able to see it and feeling sort of irresistibly, unconsciously attracted to the same dynamic over and over again, as you heal and transform and free up those patterns through the inner work, you're able to go, wait a second. Oh, wait a second. And actually kind of navigate certain relationships and situations from greater awareness. And so in that sense, our choice kind of expands, I do feel, and again, I can't prove this, but I do feel that we incarnate into this human experience in order to learn, to grow, to evolve. And I do feel as though we incarnate as energy, as consciousness, as souls into this human experience, that kind of life is sort of a university for our soul's evolution. And everything is our teacher. And life is talk about a game. Life is a game. Life is a energetic matrix of mirrors that shows you, reflects to you yourself and who you are being through the reflection of experiences. We get to see ourselves, the reflection of relationship, we get to see ourselves and evolve. And I think that's in that sense, life is about our growth. Life is about our evolution. And so I think to some degree, we incarnate, and there may be we incarnate into a family system, as an example, parents, mom, dad, and there is a certain energetic karmic blueprint that's already preset. And that is a momentum that has been already in motion from generations. The stuff that my grandparents did, and my parents did, and my dad did, and ancestors did. That energy is also, I think, some of those things that were not resolved, and patterns and dysfunctions that don't get completed, is an energy stream that runs down to the generations to follow. And so now we are born into that to a degree, and that begins to shape us. Now, does that have to degree we're unconscious, that will control us and our destiny? And if we keep moving in that energetic momentum, then you could say our destiny is kind of set based on the flow and trajectory of the karmic energy that is even before us. And now we're just going to flow into that. But as we start becoming more conscious through our meditation practice, through our inner practice, we start waking up, we start transcending the egoic limitation and conditioning. We start resolving those patternings, we start transcending those limitations. We begin to free ourselves, you could say, from that energetic momentum. And I think in that sense, there is the possibility to shift that energy. There is the possibility to shift that energy so that we can transcend it, and it doesn't have to be passed on to next generations. And then from that place, we can begin to participate and create a different experience for ourselves in life. And to me, it's energy. And so in that sense, I don't know if I would call it free will, but I might call it freeing up energy. And as we free up energy, we're able to, because many times and I felt this in my younger years, like maybe some folks would resonate, like if you've ever felt like you are acting out some patterns that don't belong to you, like you're acting out certain addictive tendencies, that it's like, I'm doing this alcohol thing, this sexual thing, but it doesn't even feel like it's mine. And so many times I think we're playing out, acting out certain generational patterns that aren't even ours. And so we're not free. We're truly not free, but we can shift that. We can shift that for sure. I think can anybody be anything? In that sense, if we're talking free will, like, could I be Lewis Hamilton if I have free will, and Kobe Bryant? And I do think that every soul has a curriculum. Every soul has certain invitations and lessons that they are here to explore in the game that is life. And that doesn't mean we can't take other classes, but I think that Mandela's curriculum is different than my curriculum. Elon Musk's curriculum, different than your curriculum. Kobe Bryant's different than, and I think when we free ourselves up of egoic patterns, conditioning, we tap into that deeper dimension of soul, of spirit, of unconditioned consciousness. And I think from that place, we're no longer limited. And from that place, we can begin to tune into the path that is most aligned for us in this incarnation. So rather than me trying to be, Steph Curry, or me trying to be, Light Watkins, I can feel my truth. I can feel my essence. I can feel my unique expression of what consciousness is seeking to experience and manifest through me in this incarnation, and follow that flavor and give that and be the best version of myself in my classroom. So anyway, those are some thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I guess that makes sense to me because I'm familiar with a lot of the language you use. But let's say you identify as a regular person, you have a regular job, you have a family, you have a lot of responsibilities, and you don't feel quite like how you live your life is authentic to who you are. What would be like a very practical sort of series of next steps? Should somebody get a coach? Should they find a mentor? Should they go to India? Should they walk this trail? How do they find, because I think it's hard to see what you don't, it's hard to know what you don't know. It's hard to see your blind spots, and you could be getting in your way in all kinds of ways.
I think in many ways we are getting in our ways, but we don't see it because the eyeball can't see itself. And often we're so locked into ego, that perceived sense of what we believe ourselves to be based on past experiences and our belief system. And, the ego's job is to protect you from getting hurt. And the ego's job is to reinforce its identity and existence, so it holds on. So we often don't want to change, because change, as painful as maybe what we're living is, change for the ego, our sense of what we believe ourselves to be, feels scary, feels like a death. And so we hold on to the sense of belief systems and ideas because it tends to be more comfortable. Like, at least I know who I am, who I think I am. At least I know the level of my suffering. But if I change, and if I question myself, if I start meditating, transform, I don't know what will happen, but at least I know what is right now. And that's why I think change can feel a bit hard. So, where can people start? This is often what I tell people. I don't know if we talked about this in the first interview, but a simple place for anyone to start, I think, is just starting with the truth. That's what I will say. Just start with the truth. To me, you don't have to be spiritual, but truth is real spirituality. Truth is real yoga. Truth is real meditation. The truth. We're constantly lying to ourselves out of self-protection, self-preservation, keeping face. We're taught to lie to ourselves as children to just function and survive. I feel okay. I feel fine. We betray ourselves trying to be who we think we need to be to get love, validation, and approval. So if we can just start with the truth, and this is just survival. So if we can just start with the truth.
How does that look though?
I'm not happy.
You're staring at yourself in the mirror and you just start.
I'm not happy. I'm miserable. I'm not happy. Okay. I hate my job. It's freaking scary to say I hate my job, because what does that mean now? And so often we don't tell ourselves the truth because we're afraid of the consequence. So I would say create daily space in your life to sit still, to breathe, and to start listening to the deeper truth that's inside you. Mm. Many times we busy ourselves. We run here, run here. Sometimes we busy ourselves, not even sure what we're doing and why we're running and where we're running to. But I think there was this innate egoic fear of being still, because we're afraid if we be still, we might dissolve. We're afraid if I'm really still, I might actually hear and listen to and catch the vision of the truth that I actually sense is there. And because I'm afraid, I might actually listen to the truth that's there. And I'm afraid of the truth that's there. If I'm running around, then I don't actually have to listen to the truth that I sense is there that I'm a little afraid of. So let me keep myself busy. Let me do another thing. Let me read another book. Let me like go on another day. Let me have another drink. Let me go out to vape. Let me just busy myself. So I would just say, just start. If you're in a moment of your life, you're like, but I'm frustrated. Stop. Take 30, commit to taking an hour a day. Okay, maybe that's too much. But if you're really in pain and it's so painful, maybe you can't afford not to take the time. So take half an hour a day out of the TikTok busyness and sit, breathe, and listen. Journal, sit, and ask yourself, what lies am I telling myself? What lies am I telling myself? And start writing, start getting real. Deep down, we know. We pretend to not know. Like, I'm confused. I don't know. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know if this relationship is right for me. We know. How many times I've been guilty of this? If you've been in a relationship, we've been in a relationship. When I say you, I'm talking to everyone listening. And you met the person, something said, something's off. And you went into the relationship. And then you were like, well, should I stay? Should I go? I'm not sure. Something's not. And you would speak to your friends about it. But the moment you broke up, you told your friend, I just had a feeling that wasn't going to work. We know. I'm not sure what my purpose is. I don't know. We have a sense. If someone put a gun to our head or a gun to our child's head, we would not. We have a sense of what our purpose is. But sometimes it's easier to stay in this smoke screen of confusion. I don't know. Because if I'm always confused, I don't have to take the next step. I don't have to pursue my purpose. And if I don't have to pursue my purpose, I can always live in the future fantasy of the possibility in the future of living my purpose and never risk really going for it and risking potential failure. And so start with the truth. What lies am I telling myself? Maybe you're in a relationship. I'm not in love. Scary. I'm terrified. I'm not in love. And I would say, take the pressure off of yourself of having to take any action. You don't have to break up. You don't have to act, because sometimes the fear of the consequence is what blocks our deep intuition, knowing, guidance, and courage to take the leap. Just acknowledge the truth. I'm not in love. I'm terrified. Feel that. I'm scared. Feel that. You don't have to break up. Just start getting into a relationship with what's there, because that begins a process. And you don't have to put pressure on any time limit, but just get into a relationship with the truth. I hate my job. Feel that. I have an alcohol problem. Feel that. That's the beginning of surrender. That's the beginning of transformation. And many times, we feel pain. We feel the frustration. We feel the lack of energy, or we feel pain. Pain might manifest as depression, lack of aliveness, lack of energy. But to me, pain is a signal. Maybe physical, a temporary physical ailment, backache, shoulder ache, maybe an ongoing dis-ease. To me, pain is feedback. Pain is a gift. Pain is a mirror. Pain is your friend. Pain is simply showing you. It's your unconscious communicating. It's showing you that there's some part of you that may not be, probably isn't in your integrity. Yet what we tend to do in our culture, as you know, is we distract ourselves. You know, we drink it away, smoke it away. So eliminate if you're serious, eliminate the distractions. Carve out that time, hour, 45 minutes, half an hour every day, no distractions, breathe, sit, feel your body, sense your body, tune in, your body will give you clues, journal, write, and see what comes out if you free form write and just start owning the truth.
So you are famous for facilitating an extreme version of this in places like India and Bali. And you've been doing this for years now. I know you don't like to talk a lot about what the experience is like. You want people to kind of, it's like the movie, The Game. You want people to not know what they're getting into.
Hero's journey.
But just talk about what you've seen in terms of people coming out of the other side of that. Maybe give like a little synopsis of what it is that you're inviting people to do.
Yeah.
And in Boundless Bliss Bali, and then what you've seen in terms of them coming out on the other side of that after 12 days of complete surrender.
Wow, it's a unique 12 days because it's not an informational process. What I do, so it's a 12-day experiential seminar without walls, where I use Bali as the backdrop. And I create a process that is designed to, through certain processes I set up, which I can't talk about, but through certain exercises, processes, a game-like experience, facilitating people all the way through, that is designed to expose what's inside. Is designed to expose where you're holding on. Is designed to expose your relationship with life, with the universe, with God, with yourself. Is designed to show you where things are not complete. And through that, I step by step help people move through and heal and let go. And so, yeah, it is a journey of going into the unknown. And in the unknown, facing yourself, facing your demons, facing your fears. It's a journey of becoming conscious and aware of the things that you weren't even conscious and aware of, so that you can deal with that, so that you can come back into the world from a much more expanded place, free place. And from that expanded awareness, tap into more of your potential, to be more available, to allow life to use you and serve through you and manifest through you, so that you can give your gifts to the world. And so it's really, we go in to go out, let's put it that way. And many times, you know, talk about freedom, we think we're free, but we're only free as the degree to which we're conditioned. But we think we're free, but the moment you take away someone's, you know, iPhone and someone's routine and someone's, you know, fashion and someone's makeup and someone's hairstyle and someone's, you know, there's all of these habits that we have and routines that we have that we don't realize is sort of propping up our sense of self. That our sense of identity and our sense of confidence is based on, I'm confident if I can put on my makeup, put on my cologne, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. If I do these 700 things, then I'm me. But if your sense of self is dependent on all those things, you're just a slave. because all of those things can come and go. All of those things are transitory. And so to me, that is not true freedom. True freedom is being connected to that deeper dimension of yourself that is free, that is infinite, that is not dependent on the constantly changing world out here. And so what I do in my experiences and processes is I take away a lot of those things that we tend to hold on to for a sense of meanness. And when all of those things have been taken away, the version of yourself that you thought you were, that is reinforced by all those things, begins to like die. Then it forces you to find out, well, if I'm not that, and I'm not that, and I'm not that, and then who am I? And what is real? What is real? And that's, I think, when a deeper power from the inside emerges. You know, I look at it like a Mandela, 27 years, bro, in prison. That shit is real, man. 27 years in prison, I think would make you think about some things, and he was in prison physically, but I think through that process, he was in prison, but he wasn't free. And many of us, we are free in the world, but we're in prison in the world, within ourselves. And so part of my intention is through my work and through my processes, and it's hard to explain because you kind of have to go through it, and experience it and go through the processes I put people through, is really designed to help free people of conditioning, but also those places that they're depending on life being a certain way to be free.
Right. Yeah, we have a mutual friend who actually wrote about, he didn't write in detail about going through your program, and he didn't write about you by name, but I knowing you and knowing him, I put two and two together, and he now calls himself the kindness guy. And he ended up doing this thing where he decided to circumnavigate the globe on the kindness of strangers with no money. And he had to find somebody every day to put gas in his little motorcycle that he was driving, and to put him up at night and to feed him. And the whole thing took 6 months. And to me, that was like the embodiment of what I'm hearing you talk about, which is you have to really step outside of yourself, your preferences, your need to control your experience, and just really surrender. That's what he was really embodying, was this idea of complete surrender, complete allowing, complete trust, complete faith. And when people talk about, this is, who are you really? That's who you are. Your most authentic expression of yourself is someone who's just trusting in your life experience. But we don't appreciate how much stripping away of the layers it takes to get there, which is why inner work is so important, and it's not like you can just do inner work for a couple of weeks and get there. People say, get on social media, oh, I'm healed now. I read a few self-help books, now I'm healed. It's like, no, you have, like you said, it's an experiential journey. You have to, and if you don't create it, life will create it for you.
For sure.
And that's what the rock bottom moment is. The rock bottom moment is essentially you get to see who you truly are beyond all the stuff you think you needed in order to, be this person in the world.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. You can't just watch a few TikTok videos and call that the work. Did my work for the year. Life is the work, man. Life is the process. Life is the ceremony. Life is the teacher.
I don't even know if you get to a point where you're completely healed. Like people say that too. Like they boast about how they're healed, and you should be with someone who's healed. It's like the person you're attracted to is specifically encoded to trigger the parts of you that are not healed. And so you get to have that university class with that person for however long it lasts. Maybe it lasts for a lifetime. Maybe it only lasts for, a few years or a couple of months.
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean that that was a waste of time,
for sure.
because you fought at the end, and essentially you found out, what your sore spots were spiritually and emotionally. And, that's just, if you didn't work it out with them, you would have attracted someone else into your life to work that out with. So
For sure.
it's a constant process. So that's what I love about your work, and what I hear about what I'm hearing you say is that the journey itself is the destination. And instead of trying to rush through it, try to get present to it. Being present to it will help you move through those lessons a lot more efficiently than trying to rush through it and get to the end of the class.
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
So you're still doing these experiences? How often?
2023 is the last year. I don't do the India journeys anymore, but 2023 is the last year, July and December. The last year I'm doing the Bali journeys. Yeah, just life evolution, creating different events. And so this is the final year that I've done 20, as of speaking now, I've done 20 of these events. And they're crazy, they're radical, they're amazing, inspiring. And so this is the final year. I'm doing this particular Bali event, and we're going to cap it at 22.
After you're done, are you going to write a book about it, or how are you going to memorialize this experience?
I don't know if I will. We'll see. I'm sitting with what my next book is, and will I write a book about it? I don't know. I'm not sure. If the spirit guides me, then yes. But at this moment, I don't feel. I might incorporate some stories into that. But I'm designing different seminars and events right now that are more accessible to the mass, where I'm going to be putting my best stuff into 3 days, 4 days events that can still produce the same effect without going to Bali, and opening it up to more people.
Beautiful, man. Well, tell us where people can find your work. I know you're prolific on your socials.
Cool.
Which ones should we go to?
Couple of things. Yeah, the book, The Magic of Surrender. Instagram, Kute Blackson, say hi. What else? Facebook, Kute Love Now, say hi.
Are you on Facebook much these days?
Sometimes I pop on there, but we post on there. So Kute Love Now. Soul Talk, my podcast, which we just did a beautiful interview that's going to be up soon as well, if it's not up already. And if people, depending on people listen to this, if you feel a calling to dive deep, www.boundlessblissbali.com, July the 28th, and then one in December the 5th of 2023. We go deep.
That's 12 days, right?
12 days.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Last thing, give us a parting thought to just, to resonate, to marinate on throughout the rest of our day.
Wow. This,
What are you thinking about? What are you curious about these days in terms of your work, or in terms of the world, or things like that?
Personally curious, I'm going into, this is a whole separate conversation, but building as an entrepreneur, and grounding certain things in economics, making money, making impact. So that's something that I'm really looking into now in terms of building, in a building phase. So that's a new adventure. But one thing, for me, what I've observed for myself is life unfolds, man. This last few years of my life, I have seen life unfold in ways that I couldn't have planned, in ways that I did not make happen with my personal power. And as I see life happening, And when I just witness it and observe it, the best things in my life that have happened over the last few years, I as an individual Kute-ness self, I didn't make it happen, man. I didn't do it. I'm not saying there's not a bunch of things I did in, the last 20, 30 years that energetically didn't contribute, but the way I've seen things unfold, from meeting my wife, from having a kid, from the timing of so many things, it's just grace. And so if anything, more and more, I'm endeavoring to get myself out of the way and allow flow that is life to do its thing. And, if I were to encourage anyone, is that trust life, trust life. It has an intelligence. And the more we can bring ourselves into relationship with that, which we are, I think that's where the miracles happen, beyond what we could have planned for ourselves. And so, yeah, I'm curious and excited and inspired to go deeper and deeper into that, deeper and deeper into that, and see what happens. What happens when I just open my arms and just, okay, trust. And so that's the yoga, that's the exploration.
Beautiful. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. I want to acknowledge you for all the goodness you're putting out into the world in all ways.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to be able to call you a friend.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you a lot.